Steve Herman, Chief National Correspondent and former White House Bureau Chief of the Voice of America.
Steve, extraordinary events. Joe Biden, having been under pressure to stand down for so long, has now finally done that. He won't contest the presidential election. Do we know now what finally forced his hand?
Well, there are a number of reasons. There had been a snowball growing of Democrats that were calling him to, quote, pass the torch in previous days and weeks. And there were indications that some very prominent Democrats, including former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, this week were going to come out and call for him exactly to do that. So it either could have been done the hard way or the easy way. And it seems like it was really a last minute decision by Joe Biden. He only told his senior staff like a minute before the announcement went out on social media that he was doing this. And all indications are he started to lean in this direction on Saturday night.
On Saturday night. What happens next? He has endorsed Kamala Harris, but does it mean that she will necessarily get the nomination?
No, it's not a slam dunk, but we did have a significant number of prominent Democrats on Sunday come out very quickly and endorse her. All of the state party Democratic chairs, a number of governors, some who had been mentioned as possible people to step in to run for president if Joe Biden did step aside, and also a number of prominent people in the U.S. Congress. So she has Joe Biden's endorsement, which came out 30 minutes after he made the initial announcement. So she is definitely headed towards the Democratic Party's convention, which will be held in Chicago starting around August 19th, with a tremendous advantage. No one else at this hour has jumped in. We're hearing some reports that Joe Manchin, a senator from the state of West Virginia, who had been a Democrat, is now an independent, is thinking of signing up again as a Democrat just so he can jump in and run against Kamala Harris.
Who might be her running mate if she is successful in securing the nomination?
Yeah, this is the big parlor game at the hour, and will be on Monday here in Washington. In fact, I'm planning to write a story about this for VOA's website and our language services about this on Monday. There are a lot of wild names being thrown around. The most likely, possibly Josh Shapiro, who endorsed Kamala Harris today. He is a governor, a Democratic Party governor of the state of Pennsylvania, which is a swing state, white male. So we expect that there's going to be a more traditional looking vice presidential candidate on the ticket. And that'll be pretty much up to her to choose. I've also heard that some musings that perhaps she could choose a retired general from the U.S. military, someone who had a lot of ribbons on the uniform, to sort of go after perhaps the more conservative older male voters that like going back to 2016 in the state of Wisconsin, it was Hillary Clinton's problem that these older white males who were high school graduates, were not going to stomach a woman for president, let alone Hillary Clinton. So, yeah.
Is the idea you think that the Democrat strategists and Kamala Harris herself may be thinking we need to cover off is that bit of the electorate that was previously covered off by Biden?
Certainly, um, the Democrats went in the past number of weeks from a situation where there were perhaps a half a dozen swing states to as many as a dozen. They need to pare that back if they're going to have any chance of winning. And an ideal candidate would be, in the eyes of many political pundits, a white male from one of these swing states. Gavin Newsom is a very charismatic figure in the party. He's the governor of California, but there's an issue about having two people from the same state on the ticket, and the speculation is that Gavin Newsom is likely to be a significant Democratic Party presidential candidate sometime in the future, and he can just sit this one out.
Mm.
And if Kamala Harris loses to Donald Trump, then he would be poised to jump in 4 years from now. And if Kamala Harris does lose, the fundraising for 2028 for the Democratic Party candidates starts, the day after the inauguration.
Do we know anything from the polling that's been done so far about whether Kamala Harris can beat Trump?
I haven't seen a poll that's been taken after this announcement was made. There's one poll that the Atlanta Journal Constitution did a couple of days ago that just came out this afternoon. Showed Donald Trump still leading Kamala Harris in Georgia, another very critical swing state. She, in polls that were taken in the past couple of weeks, in some of the polls, she was doing a little bit better than Biden, and others about the same. And there are even a couple of polls out there that showed she could beat Donald Trump. But one thing I've been cautioning people is these national polls are practically meaningless. The no matter what, the Democrats are going to win California, the Republicans are going to win Texas. So percentage point swings in those states don't really mean anything. The only polls to look at are those for the swing states. That's where we're going to see in the next week or two if there's any movement. Now, I can tell you one thing for certain. Kamala Harris is jumping into this and being endorsed by Joe Biden has energized the base of the Democratic Party immediately with tens of millions of dollars being raised for the campaign in the hours after this all happened. It's the biggest day of 2024 for the Democrats as far as small donors, grassroots contributions is concerned. So, will that be sustained? We don't know. And for the Republicans, they're in an interesting situation now because they were really banging on Joe Biden about this age cognitive decline thing, and now Donald Trump is the old man in the race, right? So they're in a bit of a situation like the dog who caught the car, and they have to figure out what to do now. They're obviously going to come out and blast Kamala Harris in campaign ads within days. We've already heard that is coming.
Just one final point, Steve. Will there be any kind of inquest, do you think, in the Democrat Party about how Biden was allowed to continue for so long, really right up to a couple of weeks before the convention, when it was pretty clear that he certainly was not perhaps in the health to contest the election, let alone last in one of the most demanding jobs in the world for another 4 years, or does American party politics not really work like that?
Well, I don't know if we'll have any sort of formal inquest. I can tell you there's going to be a lot of people who are in this administration going to be writing books next year, regardless of what the outcome of the election is. So we'll get some insight from that, just as we did years after Ronald Reagan's a second term where he was in the early stages of Alzheimer's disease. Um, and I have to say this, I a number of years ago, early when Joe Biden was on the campaign trail in 2020, and I was also covering the White House the first 8 months of the Biden administration, and we were interacting with him on a frequent basis. Sometimes he was tired in the evenings and would start to stutter or something like that. It's much different now, and that debate, that disastrous debate in Atlanta against Donald Trump, was the most evident example that we saw in any interaction, public interaction, of Joe Biden seeming to have some, fairly serious problems in that department. So I can say over the past 4 years, it's sort of been a gradual decline. There was some concern. They were obviously trying to, not have him overdo it. Um, but the debate changed everything. That was really the catalyst for all of this.